And songwriters always hold back songs. I know this for a fact. There's always songs that are too personal, too vulnerable, too whatever the word is here, too emotional. So I know you have those songs. You don't have to share them with us. I know this just from having talked to so many different songwriters over the years. So how do you decide? Because the songs you do have out are actually very emotional, very vulnerable, very that. So I can't imagine what the ones are like that you're holding back. So how do you decide which ones to put out and which ones to keep?
I think I kind of go with seasons as well. Like as an example, my next single, which is called October, obviously you'd think release that in October. That actually isn't the reason I'm doing that. It's because it's the first song that I will be releasing, which makes me nervous. Whereby um actually it took me a year to write this song, lyrically as well. It took me a full year, and rather than pretend that I wrote it in 2 hours and released it as a single and not focus on that, the song itself takes you through my year. It's 5.5 minutes long, not radio edit. It's a really, you need to sit and listen to the story. Um, and that's probably the most personal I've ever been in a song, I think. And it terrifies me a little bit that that's in less than a month, that's no longer mine, and it's like for everyone else
Hmm.
to listen to. Um, it kind of happened a little bit with Pretty Alright because I'd only released Gold this year before then, and Gold is a really upbeat, fun song. But Pretty Alright was the one where I found it really bizarre that people were like, clap, 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 this is brilliant, what a great song. And I was like, have you listened to the lyrics? Like, are you not asking me, am I okay? Like, what? It's like, hang on a minute. I've just put out a really quite a sensitive, feelinged song out, but people are just listening to going, oh, it's a bop. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I listened to it in the car. I was like, great, yeah. And I found that bizarre, but I think this one is evidently a heartbreak song about kind of feeling lonely and um, being really hurt by somebody and really let down by somebody's promises that they couldn't keep. And effectively, it's about being ghosted by somebody that you literally thought that you were absolutely smitten with and in love with. And I think that's terrifying because it's going to bring back all of those
Hmm.
feelings from this time last year when I started writing the song.
Yep.
So, as much as I say, oh, I want to release songs to help people and to talk about my experiences and stuff, it's so difficult being a songwriter because you are taking a risk by saying it as it is.
Yep.
And I'm quite honest when I write. I'm not trying to be poetic. I'll even run a mile. It's like you told me I told you that I thought I loved you, and you said you nearly run a mile. That's literally what the guy said to me. So I was like, well, here's my chorus. Like, I'm not trying to cover anything up or be artistic in that way at all or metaphoric. There
Yep.
might be a time where I do release a song that's a bit more mysterious, but at the moment I'm quite enjoying kind of experiencing life, having a break from it, reflecting on it, and writing about what I've got through. So October is definitely a new experience for me in terms of being very honest in the fact that it's taken me a full year to write that.
So I had a very famous songwriter tell me a piece of advice. I always ask some of the more well known songwriters, what's a piece of advice you would give to a young songwriter? And he said to me, he said, never write anything and then put it out there unless you're willing to be identified by that song, because you never know which song is going to be the one that hits. And also be willing to sing that song 4 times a night for the rest of your life, because if it hits, that's what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
So such good advice. Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
so it's
wow.
so true. Like
Yeah.
I've seen songwriters that are like huge country music songwriters that had a pop hit, and the pop hit just went explode, and you would never know that this person was a country music songwriter because the pop song is the one that hit. So you just never know. Now we did talk earlier
It's
about
crazy.
obviously your background in the arts and on stage and live musical performance and acting and all of that stuff. What facets of that do you enjoy the most?
Lots of the work that I did and have been doing post drama school is actor musician work. So my favorite thing in the world is when I get cast as about five different parts in one show, and I'm like costume changing, then running to the drum kit, then doing my scene, singing the song, dancing, going back off, getting the bass around me to play a little bit of bass, and then that's my favorite thing in the world. I love what you talk about body image and things. I love what putting a different pair of shoes or a different wig on does to you, as in terms of like your posture or how you carry yourself. And it's just really fun being different people,
Hmm.
like a little chameleon. Like especially if they're real people and you have to portray, literally last night I went to see Lee, which is the new Kate Winslet film. So I've been watching lots of her um, kind of interviews about becoming a real person rather than just a fictional character. Um, and how different it is because you're going off dates and exactly what age they were at a different point in
It's
the
much more
play. And
regimented, right? You don't get to be as creative when you have to actually
yeah,
be someone real. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, you've got to kind of do your history research. You become a historian
Yep.
really
Mhm.
first. Um, and yeah, I love verbatim work. I love literally copying like interviews and trying to get the right accent and the right tone in your voice to become that person. I haven't done as much of that, but I'm hoping that that's in my future in terms of acting. But yeah, I just you know, effectively, I get paid to be different characters in different outfits in different venues across in the world, everywhere. Obviously, predominantly the UK at the moment, but who knows?
Mhm.
And then, yeah, the best part about it is that you get to kind of be a family for a few months, like this weird, quirky, artistic, crazy family that are all on the road and learning lines and going to the pub after a show and laughing about something that's gone wrong or somebody coming on the wrong costume or it's great fun. It helps me not get writer's block for my music because I'm consistently in different environments and I'm
Right.
never in this kind of 9 to 5 mundane thing where I go, oh, now it's time to write. What am I going to write about today? What cereal I had for breakfast? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm one day I'm in a prog rock musical called Operation Julie in North Wales where I've never been before, and the next minute I'm doing panto in Cardiff, and I'm dressed as a fairy dealing with children. So like it's you know,
I can't
and
imagine what your
like two
dreams are
days
like.
ago, I literally like it is crazy, and sometimes living out of a suitcase is so exhausting.
I
I
bet.
just want my own place in one place. But like at the moment, I've got nothing tying me down, so I'm just trying to lap it up and experience everything that I
So,
can.
again, two sides of Caitlin Lavagna. There's the acting side, the musical side, and then there's the more mainstream music side. I don't really want to categorize you as mainstream because you're not at all, but like it's more meant for the masses rather than just for a stage, right? So, how much? I have two
Yeah.
questions here that we talked about a little bit earlier in the show, but how much does your background in theater kind of bleed into your other side where you're trying to be more marketable, commercial, more listened to, so to speak? And is there, or do you put up a guard against letting that bleed through? Like, is that something that you're thinking about when you're writing?
Definitely. I was in the studio recording the vocals for my next single, October, and I remember Alex, my producer, saying, and Joe and Alex, my producers, because we did it kind of half and half this time. They were both like, I wasn't happy with the take that I had done because it wasn't necessarily what I would think to be perfect. But they were like laughing at me, going, "Yeah, but you're not in Les Mis, so just chill out." They were like, "It's not perfect in terms of vocally perfect," but they were like, "We all know you can sing. We all know you've got the technique, and you're not going to damage yourself if you put a bit of rasp on that one little bit of the song that's
Mm-hmm.
really, as a listener with your headphones in, it's really going to get that story across that you're like at your,
Mm-hmm.
wit's end." And I really had to take a moment in the studio and go, "Oh, this is so difficult because I don't want to sound like a trained singer, but I also want to sound like I've got the range and that I know what I'm doing with my voice. Because not to be savage to any other artist, because who says you should have a singing lesson in your life, right?
Hmm.
What I do find is that I am able to do uh, 10 shows a week and still maintain the ability to go and do gigs on the side if I wanted to, because I've got the knowledge of how to look after my voice. I don't necessarily always look after it, don't get me wrong.
Right, right.
Sometimes having a whiskey is more important. However, um, there are things that I've just got knowledge of with my own voice, and I'd like to think that me and my voice are like best friends, and that I know how when it needs a break, and I know when I can push it a bit more. In the studio, it's always so interesting because usually, because of my timings with recording, writing, and getting something out, when I've got enough money to go into the studio is when I'm actually on tour with a show. So I've got to kind of split my vocal kind of stuff down the middle and go, okay, I've come from doing this prog rock musical where I'm singing like 10 shows a week. And I've got that, and that's what's funding me being able to release October. Great. Now I'm in the studio and I've got one take to get this in, and that take is what people are going to listen to for the rest of their lives because that's on Spotify.
Yep.
Do I want it to sound polished and perfect? Probably not. I probably want to just let rip a little bit and have a good time and see where my lyrics take my voice when
Yep.
I'm emotionally connected to that. But I let it lead with writing quite a lot because I think, like I said, I'm a storyteller and um, I love being dramatic. I'm just a dramatic person, like I am. Like I'm
Mhm.
in touch with my feelings, and I'm not ashamed to say that actually. However, sometimes, of course, there's moments where I, like I just said, where I choose to go, okay, trained singer, goodbye. I'm just gonna have a good time and not think about the consequences, you know. And then I work backwards so that when I do my live gigs, I go, okay, now I've got quite difficult vocal songs to sing in a half an hour slot where I'm doing seven in a row,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
With like my big ballads and stuff. Like they're big songs. So then I go into kind of more musical theatre territory where I go, okay, if I just flip the voice there, if I work through it and if I put a breath in there, I'll be able to get that note no matter what state my voice is in, you know. So it's kind of mathematical for me, like that.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love it. And you mentioned money. Unfortunately, money is such a hindrance to creativeness. And you talk about only having one take, and that's why, because of the money, right? Because having a second take costs more money. Having a fifth take is going to cost more money. So
Yeah.
you have to get it right, or at least as close to right as your creative person will allow you to have it, right? But I
Yeah.
imagine when you listen back to it later, after your one take, maybe it is too perfect sometimes. So, how do you deal with that? Because you are a creative person and you want this to be perfect within your mind, but you don't want it to be perfect in the sense of in the sense of theater. What do you do then? You
Yeah.
just change it for your live performances and just like tell a different story? Like, what do you do?
I think doing the songs like acoustically live is always really interesting to me because Josh, my guitarist, will tell you this. I sing them differently all the time, depending on what mood I'm in on the
Right.
day and depending on where my vocal range is. And, you know, it's the same song effectively and the same version of it acoustically, but I'll decide to belt a note and I'll decide to head voice a note depending on how I'm feeling and how the story's coming across. And also what I'm getting from the audience, because we forget that the audiences, especially for live performances, you know, such a you could be in a venue that's giving you so much energy, and sometimes I find that makes me calmer and I'm just doing my job. Sometimes when you're like begging for attention from an audience, it's a you use your voice differently. Okay, you do different things. um yeah, the money thing is always a worry, especially because I'm using acting to fund music, probably the two worst things to like. It's not like I'm a, you know, a politician on the side that's getting a decent wage to release the music.
Yeah.
You know, it's people say it to me like you're very fight or flight, or you should probably like, you know, you're using an unpredictable art form to fund an unpredictable art form.
Yeah.
Like, so if anything, that makes me even more determined. Like I've got nothing else distracting me from those two things. So I'm either acting or I'm doing music. There's no kind of in betweens for
Mhm.
me. And I think that's actually what's dragged both of the careers, if you like, into one. um, yeah, and they happen to coincide. Like I released my single "We Lost Track," which is one of my first ballads. Um, Around about the same time, I was in Fisherman's Friends, the musical, which was this shanty kind of folk um, musical where I was working with a lot of string players. So then I was like, well, I've been waiting to write this song. It's a ballad. Come play strings on the song. And then that happened, and that was my folky solo stuff. And then, I was in Operation Julie, which I've mentioned, the prog rock musical, which I'm so proud of. I was surrounded by prog rock every single day, and then Gold and Pretty All Right kind of came out of nowhere. So it kind of means that, like, I suppose the acting funding the music it's working at the moment. I can't afford a house. I can barely afford to keep my car running, but I'm very lucky to have such good contacts in both industries, and they believe in my music and they want to be involved.
Mhm.
So I'm just taking each day as it comes, and we're going with it.
And it's
Yeah.
keeping your cup filled creatively too, I imagine, probably, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, if anything, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to be a lawyer. Like, just take me to a normal, like, give me an admiral job. Let me work for Admiral for a bit, like on a call center, or like, please. I just want to wake
uh,
up, have my breakfast, do my workout, go to work, and come back at 5 o'clock like everyone else. But it's
yeah.
just, I would collapse if I did that. There'd be nothing keeping me going.
Oh, I completely understand. Like, interviewing people is not exactly a huge money making enterprise. It's all about passion, right? It's just about the passion,
Yeah.
and that's what it's about at the end of the day. And unfortunately, passion doesn't pay the bills.
No, no.